Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today we'll find out the 3 things that Americans think define wealth without requiring money with financial wellness expert and author Miranda Marquit. Also joining the discussion is someone who makes all of our lives richer just by being in it. Oh, barf. It's Paula Pant. And finally, we've got the guy who invented the Apple Watch. Oh, no, wait. Sorry, I read that wrong. It's the guy who invented the sundial. It's Len Penzo. But that's not all. Halfway through the show, I'll share some buoyant trivia questions. And now a guy whose favorite genre of music is yacht rock. It's Joe Saul-Sehy.
Hey everybody, I'm really not a yacht rock fan. Welcome to Friday. I'm truly not a yacht rock fan, but welcome to Friday anyway. If you like pina coladas and getting caught in the rain, you're gonna like this. Isn't that a yacht rock song, Doug?
Oh, absolutely it is. That's way up there.
Isn't that England, the yacht rock song?
Dan and John Ford Coley, and it's good music.
Yes.
Good music.
Welcome to Yacht Rock Friday. We're so happy you're here. We've got quite a panel, as you heard Doug so eloquently say at the top of the show. So sit back, relax. We're going to talk about really feeling richer as much as being rich. How do we have a more rich life? Well, let's start deep under Los Angeles, where Mr. Len Penzo is having a deep, no natural sunlight life. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess you could say that right now. You know, right now my brain's spinning because Doug brought up England Dan and John Ford Coley, and I could never really figure out, is that 3 guys or 2 guys or 6 guys? I really don't know. How many is that, Doug? I don't know.
It's 2. England Dan. England Dan, one guy.
Okay, so it's just not like, England Dan.
Yeah, like your Bunker Len. He's England Dan.
Okay.
And then John Ford Coley.
Okay.
Joe Saul-Sehy. I mean...
Oh, yeah, very good. Okay. England Dan and Joe Saul-Sehy. Yeah, I like that.
There it is. Yes. And the woman who I hope is going to save us from all this, skying way above Manhattan, it's Paula Pant, who's here.
Well, I can't really name any musical celebrities, but I do actually enjoy yacht rock. It is a preferred genre.
My problem was that to pay my way through college, I played a bunch of parties as a DJ, and you'd have to play this stuff at 120 decibels. And I just, after hearing Baker Street at 120 decibels, I just don't want to just.
Did you play that song?
Not good.
So I love that song. I gotta say, that's such a good song.
See, I can pick them like it's funny. We have people over for game night, and I have a mix that has a lot of yacht rock on it because I know people love it. And so I will play it, and then Spotify thinks I like it. So when Spotify does Discover Weekly, it serves me up. I have friends. Doesn't mean I like any of this crap. Yes. But somebody who I do like very much, and I'm super happy she's back with us. How about that, huh? Miranda Marquit is back.
Hello. Nice segue. I am fine. No, I'm doing great. No, I actually got to go to a Goo Goo Dolls concert. So I think that is the opposite of yacht rock. And so
total opposite.
I saw them in concert too. I've seen them in concert.
Oh, so fantastic. The music of my youth. The music of my youth and the music of Len's middle age.
Did you see Gin Blossoms?
Easy now, Miranda. Easy.
Shots fired.
I almost missed that.
Len is one of my oldest financial friends.
I was going to say, I'm cutting you slack because we've been friends for so long, Miranda.
Yeah.
That wasn't the reference to oldest, Len. I think you missed it. she would have said longest friends.
That too. I mean, we did share that cab that one time.
Yes, we did.
Miranda, I know it's a busy time of year for you with the Plutus Awards, with the Plutus Summit as we're getting ready to record this. We got FinCon coming up. So what's happening over at MirandaMarquit.com, Miranda?
I'm super excited because I do have some fun stuff coming up. We are transitioning into doing some workshop kind of things, and very excited about that because a lot of people have been asking me, and this probably ties into our show today, but a lot of people have been asking me since I was gone half this summer, how do I get to travel so much? How did I manage to just pick up and go to China? And what are the kind of resources that we have there? So right now we're kind of working on trying to figure out how to make that information available to people and work on putting some workshops out there and letting people know how they can kind of use their finances, the money that they do have, direct those resources in a way that they want and in a way that makes their life a little bit more enjoyable.
It is exactly where we're going today. And one more thing, you're also on the Money Show with Stacey Johnson.
Yeah, so we are on the Money Talks News podcast, so super excited about that. We are going to be doing some dives into some of your favorite or maybe not so favorite financial gurus. We're actually going to be talking a little bit about Dave Ramsey, about Susie Orman, about Robert Kiyosaki. We just got the list, and we're going to be doing some dives into that. And so I'm super excited about this kind of mini series that we'll be doing and having different folks on to talk about what it is about their advice that people like. What does it resonate with them? What are some things that maybe they could do a little bit better, and kind of go from there. And we're going to talk about that a little bit.
If anybody, Miranda, knows your co-host Stacey, he'll probably hold back a lot.
Definitely. Yeah. He'll be holding back a lot. So we've picked a whole list of Stacey's favorite people. So it's going to be amazing.
Hey, Miranda, does Stacey, does he feel threatened by you? Because I see your trophy back there on the bookshelf, and compared to what Stacey's got, I think he'd feel a little threatened there.
Stacey has 2 Emmys. Stacey's going to be fine.
And for people that missed that episode of Stacking Benjamins, when Stacey came on and had the 2 Emmys, we pointed out. So the next time Len and I put our Plutus Awards behind us, Miranda, like we've got yours. And while I'm very proud of my Plutus Awards, they don't look the same as Emmys. We're like, oh, those things? Oh, yeah. So good. Well, today we're going
to real quick. You know what we need to do? We need to get one of those fake Emmys. I wonder if they make fake Emmys, like real life-size ones, or maybe you can do it. Get like 3 of them, and you can put them behind you, and then you'll have them outnumbered there.
It's like that little Time magazine thing, right? You get your little. Get a little magazine cover, get a fake Emmy.
Yes.
Might as well get a fake Oscar while you're at it.
We should totally don't share that with him next time that he comes on Stacking Benjamins, Miranda's co-host. We're gonna get everybody these fake Emmys and put them all behind us.
It's okay. Paul is on the verge of probably getting some sort of Emmy or amazing award anytime soon. So we know that. So,
well, everybody's wondering who the heck Stacey Johnson is now, what that show's all about. So we'll pause for just a second and let people look that up. Hold on. If you don't know how to spell Stacey, it's Stacy, right?
Yes.
There, that's what you're getting wrong. So hold on a second. Now they got it. Miranda Marquit's here. Paula Pant's here. Len Penzo, neighbor Doug. Let's talk about feeling wealthy. Our piece today comes to us from CNBC, and it is written by Cameron McNair. And Cameron writes, what makes you assume someone is wealthy? An outfit dripping with designer labels might be an indicator perhaps you have an eye for someone stealthily displaying their wealth in muted but expensive clothes. The things Americans say would make them feel wealthy, however, don't necessarily come with a price tag. I want to stop there before we go on. Paula, do you remember a time when you met somebody, the first time maybe you met somebody and you didn't think they were wealthy, and then you found out later because they didn't do what it says in this piece. They didn't have any ostentatious display of wealth, and then you realize you're talking to somebody who's loaded.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the people in the FIRE community and in the personal finance community in general are like that. So you go to FinCon, you go to Camp Fi, you go to all of these meetups, and you talk to people. And I mean, people represent a wide spectrum of different net worths and different income levels. But there's, certainly at the top range of that, or at a very high range of that, what's the Sixth Sense quote? Like, I see rich people walking around like everyday
I see
people.
rich people. Yes. But I'm talking about when you're young. My neighbor was a farmer, worked all day on tractors and in the field and with livestock. And I remember the first time, I don't even remember what it was. He said something. Maybe my dad said something. He's like, no, Rob, this is a guy that made me call him Rob. No, Rob has significant assets, like significant. And that was maybe at 14 years old, 15 years old, the first time I realized that the person that looks wealthy isn't necessarily that. Miranda, do you remember somebody growing up like that at all?
Not really.
Okay, great. Thanks for participating. Glad we Miranda Marquit, everybody.
So my problem is I grew up in a town that houses Idaho's only billionaire. And so we knew that man was wealthy because he wanted to make sure we all did. So
it was the exact opposite.
Yes. Yeah. So, and he wanted to make sure at school, he wanted to make sure that like his kids and his stepkids, I was friends with one of his stepchildren. He wanted to make sure that that all of them looked like they were associated with him appropriately. And he wanted to make sure his ex-wives all had, the white lifestyle to which they should be accustomed as being the former. Yeah. He's on his like third wife or something. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so mine was kind of the opposite of that because I grew up in this community that is, very, very middle class in every sense of the word. And then there's this guy that's Idaho's only billionaire, and he wanted to make sure everybody knew it. So here we are.
I remember how it's funny. It seems as I get older, Len, that America is turning into other countries. I remember Bono from the band U2 describing once when I was maybe 14 or 15 years old, saying the difference in the United States and Ireland at that time was that in the United States, you see this house on the hill, like Miranda's describing, this beautiful house on the hill. And in the United States, you go, you know what? Someday I'm going to be that person. He said in Ireland, you go by the same house on the hill and you go, you know what? Someday I'm going to get that. And I feel like it's kind of changing. Like the world's changing a lot. But do you remember somebody without the millionaire next door, so to speak?
Yeah, well, I've known several people who are very wealthy and you would never know it. They drive modest cars. They live in a modest home. They are, I won't give names. I won't even refer to them, but I know one who's double-digit millions and he lives just as modestly. You would never know it. And it's the opposite. And what's interesting is it's just the opposite with, I tried to teach this to my kids. My kids used to think that they'd see somebody driving around in a fancy car or living in this huge home, and they think they were not automatically wealthy. It's the absolute opposite. And they were in debt up to their eyeballs. And so it goes both ways, actually. Yeah. You can live anonymously rich and you can be poor but what's the word? I think Paula used the word ostentatiously poor in reverse. So, you can't judge a book by its cover.
Well, and it's funny because, even though the guy in Miranda's town looked rich, it doesn't mean that you necessarily live a rich life, right? I think if you spend a lot of time trying to look wealthy, it doesn't help you enjoy life. So let's go over these three things that help people feel a wealthy life, feel like they have more. We're going to start off with the one, guys, that is the first one on here just feels so cliche. So we'll get this one out of the way first, because the last two, I think, are a little more interesting. Enjoying experiences over owning nice things. I feel like we've been saying that a lot the last 12, 13 years we've had a podcast, but still, Paula, it doesn't change the fact that going and doing things, being in nice places that maybe you've never experienced before, or having fun out and about, truly makes a life feel richer.
Absolutely. And there's research to back this up. So this is not just idle speculation. There are a number of different studies performed by psychologists who have actually found that happiness levels have a higher correlation to experiences than they do to belongings. And part of the reason, at least in the papers that are written about this, the academic journals, where they have to, in the section of the paper where they have to kind of hypothesize on what some of those reasons might be, one idea is that memories are subject to nostalgia bias. So you don't remember the long line at Disney World, you remember the smile on your kid's face, right? You don't remember the time that your kid dropped the ice cream cone and threw a tantrum. You remember like the joyful moments, because those are the moments that you took photos of, and those are the moments that 20 years ago, or 20 years in the future, you recall fondly.
Like a good stock, they appreciate.
Exactly. Whereas items depreciate.
Yeah, it's funny. I remember as you're talking, like thinking about this trip I took with my kids to Disney when they were maybe, 7 years old. And I remember going around this corner, seeing Cinderella's palace for the first time. And my twins at 7, we left the hotel a little bit late. We're on one of the Disney buses. We turn the corner, we see Cinderella's palace. My daughter and son lose it on the bus, and it's us and a bunch of senior citizens who are going late. And I just remember how great that was. Just, Mom, it's Cinderella's castle. It's Cinderella. And all the old people on the thing are laughing and loving it. It was truly, one woman even leans forward and goes, "This is like you're in a Disney commercial. Like Disney should have had cameras and just, can we use that?" And, got a release from us, because it was so selling what they're trying to sell. But I'm sure on that trip, my kids probably begged for stuff at every gift shop and got tired and cranky, but I don't remember any of that. That's
perfect example.
A problem that we see, though, Miranda, is that a lot of the time we think about these experiences. I just mentioned Disney. They take 16 bags of money. So for a lot of people, I think they're like, well, Joe, that's really nice for you, but how do we make these everyday things be experiences that make a richer life?
Yeah, I think that's something to think about, because like you said, like we all can't just magic our way to the Magic Kingdom. Right. But I think one of the things that I like is building community around where I live. And that's been really key for me, is building community where I live. In fact, last night, the night before we're recording this,
Is that the definition of last night, by the way, the night before this one? I just want to make sure we got the definition correct, that the night before this one truly is last night.
It truly was last night.
I love it when Miranda's back.
It's fun. Anyway, I always worry, I'm like, do we have a date on this? Do I need to it's hard when we're pre-recording. But no, but first of all, we went, and here in the nice thing about living in a low cost of area living place like Idaho Falls is $12 bottomless mimosas. So I want you guys to I just want you guys to take that in for a moment. So after doing $12 bottomless mimosas, so $12, some friends were like, let's hang out some more. And I was like, well, I feel like I want to be home and be cozy. I
feel like I can't walk. That's what I'd say.
Come on now, it takes more than just a few mimosas. And so, but no, we came over and we had some zucchini from the garden and some cherry tomatoes from the garden. And I had some rosemary that I had harvested. And we just whipped some of that up with a little olive oil, tossed it in the oven and broiled it. And then we just sat down and we had this like harvest, kind of impromptu harvest dinner, and we just chatted.
That's cool.
And I think sometimes we forget that like these everyday moments are also those kinds of memories that, like what you and Paula were talking about, that kind of appreciate in our minds, and kind of things that we remember because, we remember sitting down, remember those feelings of contentment that you have. So when you're building a good community and when you have the ability to sit down with people that you love, I think that makes a huge difference to, what you want to do. And for me as well, because I'm an outdoors person and I live in a state where I have access to the outdoors, my experiences are limitless in terms of low cost. So
getting out and hiking.
Yeah. Hiking, camping, floating down the river, all of those things. And so I think too, we forget that nature is also very healing. a very great place to be, and it's free. And so
Yeah.
nature is mostly free. So I think that helps as well. But if you do want to do those big things, like some of us do want to do those big vacations and go to Disney and travel the world, and so it requires some planning. So then you do have to take a step back and say, okay, let's make some good memories while I'm saving my money to do these other things.
That's fabulous. It reminds me of who was the person, Doug, who said that the real life is what happens between the big things. I don't remember. It was some director. Might have been Woody Allen.
Okay.
Thanks for participating.
I'm still puzzled over, Miranda. What is this floating down rivers that you're talking about? Where I live, we skateboard down the rivers. I don't understand. What is there water in your rivers?
Yes, they're not just concrete canals, empty canals. Yeah.
Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Come visit. We'll go.
Are there fish in your rivers?
There are fish there, and you can eat them too. Yes, they're not polluted. Yes, you can eat them too. You can catch them and eat them. Idaho is the trout capital of the world. Come have some trout.
Len's rivers are the I can't think of anything.
They're just sad little canals. They're just concrete irrigation canals because Len's river is
the syringe capital of the world.
Len is stealing water from the Colorado River, and he lives in a place that's just sucking the life out of the Colorado River Valley. Is what Len is doing.
That is Len's mission statement: sucking the life out of the Colorado River one day at a time. But before we actually get to you, Len, because I do want to bring you into this, Paula, we were talking about that. We recorded Afford Anything today, and Miranda's talking about making communities. Most of us don't look in our backyard, that just the people around us, we're so busy online. We're so busy taking care of number one. We don't look for a community like you've got friends in the building you live in.
Right, exactly. So as you and I were talking about earlier today, part of the reason that I have chosen to stay in the building where I live is because I've got two good friends who both live in the same building. And that's so rare and so valuable, right? To know that I've got buddies who both live literally under the same roof. And sure, sometimes I won't see them for weeks. Like sometimes we'll be busy or we'll have different travel schedules. But I know that at any point, I can text one of them and be like, hey, do you have laundry soap? And cool, I'll swing by and grab some.
Well, Len, is funny because a lot of time when people retire, what do? One of the first things they do is they move. They go, if their kids live in a different area, they'll go over there. They will move to, the mountains, or they move to some other area of the country. I have two friends that just purchased vacation homes. I never see them anymore. And I feel like when you do some of these things that we do, with our money, we begin to isolate ourselves in retirement. Do you see that with people around you retiring, that they take, I feel like we don't think enough about the community in our backyard.
I'm sure a lot of people don't. I know I do. I have other retired friends. Most have stayed where they're at. I do have my best friend, though. He did, when he retired, he ended up buying another home, actually out by the Colorado River there, Miranda. And he's sucking the life right out of that river right now as we speak. So, and he's enjoying himself. So I guess it all depends on, what you like. I'm a homebody myself. I ain't going anywhere. I plan on dying in this house. So, and I enjoy where I enjoy where I live. I've got my neighbors. I've had, there's community there, and, it's just what you like in life. There's, different strokes for different folks.
What would you say, Paula, to people say they never have time? They don't have enough time for these experiences we're talking about. I'm too busy trying to make the Benjamins to put together these experiences.
That's rough because time is, there's no point in being rich in money if you're poor in time, particularly if you're chronically poor in time. Sometimes you might be episodically or seasonally poor in time, but to be chronically poor in time is an issue that needs addressing. The first thing I would say to somebody is document, track every single minute of your day in 15-minute increments. Laura Vanderkam, the time management expert, is she does a great job of kind of teaching people about time tracking. and the importance of it, because it isn't until you track your time that you can see the inefficiencies, and you can figure out where to claw back a few hours. But the other piece of it is, ruthless prioritization, right? What are the few key things that matter most?
Miranda, one last question on this topic. How were you able to take the big trip to, just peeling off to go to China is a big move. That's a big experience that you'll never forget.
Yeah, for sure. And part of it goes with that prioritization that Paul's talking about. I have long been a big fan of making sure, hey, what are my priorities? What matters most to me? How do I put myself in a position to take advantage of opportunities when they come in their way? And I am lucky because I am relatively rich in time, just because of the nature of my freelance work. I don't have to sit down and be at a job. I don't have to have a specific schedule. And so that gives me a little bit more time freedom. But I've spent the last more than a decade consciously and intentionally moving toward this point, right? I didn't wake up one day and be like, oh, hey, this is available now. I took steps over time to say, okay, how do I manage my life? Part of that was, my son is now an adult. Hey, I raise an adult human, everybody, but my son is an adult, and so that frees up some of my time. And part of what I did was make sure that, he is a self-sufficient young man who I am helping him as he goes through school. But for the most part, on the day-to-day, he doesn't need me around to do stuff. And, making investments, investing my money, making sure that I have the financial resources available. We had to kind of pay out the nose to expedite our visas to get to China. There was a whole process there, and we paid extra for a service to help us get the visas done, expedite the process, and make sure that they came in on time. So it was a whole, but that requires groundwork and it requires intentionality ahead of time.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, but it does. It requires me saying 10 years ago, start saying okay, what do I need to do to free up more of my time? What steps do I need to take? Where do I need to invest my financial resources? How do I start positioning myself and taking these steps a little bit at a time so that I get to this point? Because there's no way I would have been able to do this 5 years ago. The pieces weren't in place.
Well, I really like, Miranda, what you're saying here, which is really, you and Paula singing off the same timesheet that, as I listen to the two of you, even sometimes more important than working for money, working for time freedom, which gives us this ability for a richer life, maybe in some ways more important. I mean, don't get me wrong, you got to pay the basic bills, but if you can design a life where you've got time freedom, that is a huge, huge, huge win.
Joe, before you're talking about time freedom, so if you're in the working world, I'll give you from the corporate perspective, you can still do that even if you're working, actually. And that's not biting off more than you can chew and trying to keep your life balanced so you don't sign up for more than you really want to. I know a lot of fast chargers in the corporate world, it's a decision. It's a conscious decision you have to make. If you want to be a fast charger, you're going to give up your free time. So but there is a balance there where you don't have to go all the way to the top, and you can still provide yourself with enough free time to have both. But you got to be smart about it.
We're going to go there. We're going to go there next. Work-life balance is another one on this list. So we'll talk about how do you get that balance, especially, Len, to your point, when you're working when somebody else is, your boss, when you're not the boss of your own time. There's also another one on this list that is really good, not comparing yourself to others, which I think takes some emotional, some EQ. There's IQ and EQ. But if you've got that emotional competency to do that, that's amazing. We'll talk about getting that. But before we get there, we have, if you're new to the Stacky Benjamin Show, a year-long competition between Paula, Len, and OG. And Miranda, today you're playing on behalf of OG in our trivia competition for the world's worst trophy that we bought at the dollar store. Super big, exciting trophy that's going home with someone. And Miranda, it is really a big time for you to be here because this thing is close.
I'm sorry, OG. I am so sorry, OG. I'm just gonna be sorry. I'm gonna apologize now.
Do you want the good news or the bad news, Miranda?
Well, I mean, the bad news for OG is that we're doing this. And then the even worse news for me is that next time I see OG in person, he'll hate me now.
I doubt it.
So
number one, I seriously doubt it. And number two is you will never know because he'll have the same look on his face either way.
I was going to say, how could you ever tell?
Right. I've been good friends with him for decades and I'm pretty sure he hates me. So there you go. But do you want the good news or the bad news, Miranda?
All right, give me the bad news first.
All right, the bad news, which is also kind of the good news, is you're in last place, so there's really no pressure. OG is never in last place until this year. He has 11. Paula Pant has 12. Wait, is this real? Paula is in second place with 12, and Len surged ahead last week to 13. So they are in a neat little row.
Thanks, Tinder.
As we got about 2.5 months left. So we need a trivia question though, Doug. So what's on tap this week, my friend?
Well, Joe, I keep hearing you should dress for the job you want. So I finally did just that. I went out and got myself a brand new pair of Sperry topsiders, some khakis, navy blue polo shirt, and a jaunty little captain's hat, just like that stud, the skipper on Gilligan's Island. I've already updated my LinkedIn with a new profile photo. Hopefully, Jeff Bezos is going to see that. He's going to hire me to drive his new yacht. I read it cost him $500 million for that boat. If I had my own yacht, I'd let me captain it. It seems like as soon as the wealthy become mega wealthy, they drift out into international waters in gigantic vessels that keep them as far away from the water as possible while still technically participating in a water sport. Me, Gates, Cuban, Geffen, none of us could resist the siren song of the treacherous seas. While Bezos' recent boat purchase made headlines for its astonishing price tag, it still doesn't crack the top 5 most expensive yachts of all time. So today's trivia question is, how much was the most expensive yacht ever built to date? I'll be back right after I practice tying different nautical knots with Joe Shoes.
Oh, come on, man. Get out from under there. We've got it. More good news for you, Miranda. You get to guess last because you're in last place. But Mr. Penzo in the unenviable position now of going first again.
Yeah, I was doing so good playing last.
So Bezos' yacht, $500 million does not put him in the top 5.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? My gosh, I can't imagine. 500 million is not in the top 5.
Well, it's a starting spot. You can't live on it.
You didn't say what it ranked, did you?
You did not.
So it's not like you're not gonna say it's ranked 7th or it's ranked.
Did not.
That would help.
Look, we already gave you the basement of your guess, so this is the best clue we've ever handed out.
Is he a cheapskate?
To set an anchor for guessing.
Is Bezos a cheapskate, or is he, he just didn't quite make the top 5?
He's not a cheapskate.
He's living within
I
his
have
means.
it on good news. He had that $500 million yacht sent to him second day air delivery.
Okay. I don't know.
He also in one click ordered it.
Gosh, 500 million, right? That sounds like a lot. I don't know. I'll just say, and that's not the top 5. I'll just go for nuts. I'll just go nuts. 50 billion.
50 billion with a B dollars. Paula, what are you going to do with that number?
Wow. That's a really big number. I'm going to go 1 billion.
1 billion with a B dollars. So, Miranda, you got a lot of room there between 50 billion and 1 billion.
So is this a thing where it's like you got to be right without going closest without going over? Like what are we doing
closest.
Here? What are we doing?
Just
here?
closest.
Okay. I'm gonna say 5.3 billion.
5.3 billion. So getting a little bit of the upside off of Paula, but yeah, interesting. 50 billion, 1 billion, 5.3 billion. All right. Let's see who's the winner, but we don't play that way. We'll be right back. All right, Len, you kicked this off with $50 billion. Apparently, Paula and Miranda thought that might be a smidge high because they're significantly less than that. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking I kind of went overboard because, I mean, what's the richest guy in the world worth? Is he only worth I don't know, 100 billion or something? Would somebody spend half their net worth on that? Maybe. I don't know. I think I overdid it.
Richest yacht in the world. They're probably doing it on 5 easy payments.
I mean, the richest man in the world did spend $44 billion on Twitter.
Oh, you know what? That is true. That is true.
So we're close.
So maybe they're richer than that.
Paula, you're at $1 billion. Miranda was nice and gave you a little room by going up to 5.3. Yeah. You feeling good?
I'm feeling good. That basically gives me 2.5, 2.6, 2.7 and down.
0 to 2.7.
So I have a pretty wide range.
And then Miranda, you also have a wide range between 2.7 and roughly 22, 20, 21 billion.
I'm feeling okay. So let's be real here. So tonight I'm going to go and I'm going to run a trivia show. I'm currently the regional champ for trivia in my area. And so when I fail miserably at this, it's just going to be sad. So,
well, but this trivia is different. I mean, this is not trivia. This is
because I am a trivia person.
Oh, Miranda, we got Miranda here. Who's
I get paid to do this now.
You're going to want to rethink that statement, Miranda, after I get out the answer.
Her identity on trivia.
Foreshadowing.
Let's find out if Miranda still is a trivia person, or in this case, maybe a trivial person. Who knows?
Ooh.
Hey there, stackers. I'm multi-thousandaire and soon-to-be yacht captain, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Although Jeff Bezos spent $500 million on his new water toy, he's still behind in the race to own the most expensive yacht. Legend has it the priciest one ever built was a mega yacht named History Supreme that cost nearly $5 billion. Every detail of the vessel was more outlandish than the last, from the 220,000 pounds of solid gold used in the build, to the liquor bottle adorned with an 18-karat diamond, to an ornamental sculpture carved out of actual T-Rex bones. Alas, the History Supreme is something of a white whale to boat enthusiasts, as no evidence of the yacht's existence has ever been found. While it's unlikely that I'll get a chance to drive that boat, there's still several more mega yachts out there that I'd like to take for a spin. Remember, today's trivia question was, how much was the most expensive yacht ever built to date? Well, owned by Russian oligarch Roman Abramovich, the 553-foot Eclipse is the most expensive of his yachts, while the second longest yacht in his fleet, the 458-foot Solaris, is the second most expensive yacht ever, coming in at $600 million.
Whoa, hold on. He's got 2 yachts.
No, Joe. He's got 16 yachts. Roman Abramovich has 16 yachts.
As you do. You know.
And you can water ski behind all of them. I know that's your favorite question. How many yachts
what does he think he is, a Penzo with all those yachts? Holy cow.
I get seasick.
That sucks. How'd you find that out, by the way, Len? Yeah. Did you go out on one?
Well, it wasn't a yacht, but I've been on boats.
Yeah, friends of ours took my parents out, took all of us out on Lake Michigan one time, and my mom absolutely loved the boat. She was in love with it. We pull out, we get just beyond the pier on Lake Michigan, not even on the ocean, and all of a sudden that thing's going up and down. My mom turns green and goes to the side immediately, and nobody was more brokenhearted than her. Sounds like you're nodding your head, Len.
Well, not Lake. I was on Lake Michigan this past summer. Was it this? Oh, it was last October, and had a great time. No, Lake Michigan, I'm okay, but ocean water, yeah, no.
Jeez, but
hey, Grandpa Joe, this is not your story time.
Right. So Roman Abramovich owns the number 1 and number 2 most expensive yacht.
Yes.
He sure does.
And the second most expensive was what? You said $600 million.
Yeah, let me get back to this. The 458-foot Solaris is the second most expensive yacht ever, coming in at $600 million. More importantly, I think what we all want to know is...
I'm already out of the running. That's what you're already saying.
Well, it sounds like I am
50
too.
billion.
It sounds like it didn't even crack $1 billion. What are we even doing here? If we
The
can't
length
get
of
an
a yacht
expensive
measured in
yacht to
seconds is
crack
how long
$1
it's going to
billion.
take Doug to finish this answer.
Can I have a sound of this podcast exploding? I need that.
Okay, so how much did Abramovich's largest yacht cost? $700 million. That means Paula is our winner. She was off by just $300 million.
How does this keep happening? What is going on?
I think we should take the T-Rex bone yacht answer. I think I at least deserve a point.
Yeah, that was
for
pretty
that.
good. Yeah,
Give
you were actually on
OG
for
a
that.
point for that.
If you guys figure out if it exists or not, then
Hey, Len,
Yeah.
what's the price of gold right now?
Oh, spot or futures?
Oh, Jesus, dude. How much does an ounce of gold cost?
Wow,
It's-
Len, that was a
it's
very
r-
Len answer.
Yeah.
It's roughly 1950.
19 almost $2,000 an
almost
ounce?
2,000 an ounce. Yeah.
Okay. And that was reported to have 220,000 pounds of solid gold. So
What?
So that's the fake yacht that doesn't exist. The history supreme.
Oh.
So if it's $2,000 times 16 ounces, that's $32,000 a pound times 220,000 pounds of gold. That alone, just the gold that doesn't exist in that yacht that doesn't exist, was $7 billion.
wow, that's a lot. All I know is that Lisa, our writer, said that's not the important question. What was the important question Lisa asked, Doug?
Yeah, what she tried to slip in and get me to say was she wants to know, is Roman Abramovich single?
I mean,
I want
do
to
you want
know.
to deal with that? Do you want to deal with that? I mean, didn't they confiscate some of his
think
yachts?
they did,
Like,
yeah.
aren't
Just a
they in the
couple,
process
yeah.
of taking his stuff away because
because
that
of
whole
the
Russian
Ukrainian war.
oligarch situation?
Yes. We'll do politics on the next podcast. Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna do that, you gotta have me back.
Oh boy.
Here come those bad reviews.
Let's go to the second half of this show. The second half is brought to you by depositaccounts.com. Do you know what happens, Miranda, when you go to depositaccounts.com?
You can read some of my old writing from way back in the day
Did you really write for Deposit Accounts?
before they were bought.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. You compare more than 275,000 deposit rates, over 11,000 banks and credit unions, all for free. You see them head to head. National average, and once again, you're going to want to go to depositaccounts.com because this changes every day. But the national average of savings account rates, 0.45%. But if you give one that's in the top 1%, 4.75% APY. Get this, CDs, top 1% average on a CD for a one. Did I say for 1 year? 5.65% APY, national average 3.84. Big difference. Make sure your money's doing what it can. Go to depositaccounts.com. All right, let's move into the second half. Len, you talked about another thing that was on this list, and that is work-life balance. Having your work not take over your life, a big thing that helps people feel rich.
Yeah, you know, there's nothing more stifling than like you're trying to get up the corporate ladder, and you know, you have to put in the time, and they expect more of you. And I mean, I can remember when I was younger, I was really trying to shoot up the ladder, and so I was taking on all kinds of work extra. And I'll remember there were times we went on vacation, and I was working. You can ask the honeybee. I'm in the hotel working while she's out because I had taken on, you know, I'm trying to get up that corporate ladder. And it took me a while. It took me until I was in my mid 40s where I finally said, you know what, this is, you know, my kids were getting older. I was like, this is BS. And I said, that's it. I'm done. I don't plan on going any higher in this company. And I'm going to work. I'm going to do what I'm expected of doing, maybe a little more within my time. And that's it. And I was so much happier. Life became so much more enjoyable.
Did that stall your career though? I mean, or could you've continued moving up the ladder if you wanted to and still said, I'm not playing this game?
I could not have moved up any higher at the rate I was, you know, after I made the decision to go.
But I guess my question is, I think you know what my question is though, which is, can somebody who's a stacker listen to this, tell the boss, I'm not playing that game and still expect to move up the ladder?
Of course you can. Of course you can. You can always, it's just a matter of what you want to take on. Now, in most corporations, there's the worker bees, and then there's this executive rung, right? I'm telling you, if you're trying for that executive rung, it's like being in the military. You owe the company your life. You're actually giving your company your life. They're giving you a lot, but let me tell you, you don't get a chance to enjoy what they're giving you because you're on call 24 hours a day. And you have to ask yourself, is that what, are you really worth it? It's worth doing that. You can still move up in the non-executive ranks and get great pay and great benefits and just not have to sacrifice your life 24 hours a day to the company. So you have to think about that.
Did you write about this recently, Miranda? I think you did, about you had a, quote, very important meeting. I think you put in like all caps, and your friends were partying with the Gin Blossoms band at the time, and you didn't get to go. Was that you?
Yeah. That was
Can you
me.
tell that story? Because I think this is...
And that's why I went to see the Goo Goo Dolls.
But I think this is work-life balance, right?
Kind of, yeah. So it's a little bit different for me because it wasn't a corporate thing. One of my issues is that I take on way too much volunteer work. I take on way too much nonprofit and volunteer work. So currently, this is going to sound bad. Currently, I sit on 3 nonprofit boards in my town, and I'm the head of one of our local political parties. But back in that time, I was doing way more. And so I thought I needed to be at this meeting because I was the chair, and I was just like, duty. And duty sounds like another kind of duty, and it really is. But I thought, okay. And I was like, I'm going to try and cram this meeting in. I'm going to go to this meeting. It's very important. There's a very important presentation being made at this meeting, and I should be there. And I had tickets to the Gin Blossoms, and my then boyfriend was like, running Snapchats. He's hanging with the band. The drummer's like, skip your meeting and come to the concert. Come hang out.
The drummer for the Gin Blossoms is telling you to come and hang out.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
And I was just like, but it's my duty. It is my responsibility to do this very important thing. And, after I'd missed the concert and only made it for the encore, and I sat staring into a big glass of wine. And luckily, I know the bartenders in Idaho Falls, so they could tell I was not happy. And so they gave me a double pour of the wine. I could stare down into my glass of red wine and contemplate my life choices. How did I get here? Why am I here? Do I want to be in a position where, because the Gin Blossoms their CD was one of the first CDs that I bought with my own money. This, band of my youth, really wanted to see them. And so I was looking at it, I was like, could I have missed this meeting? Yes. Kind of what Len is talking about, right? Like, do I have to do all of these things? Do I really need to do all of these things to be successful? And I think too, we kind of get bogged down in the shoulds, what we should be doing, the shoulds. And, I grew up in a very, traditional area. I grew up in a very high demand religion. And so my life has been made up of shoulds. And you should do this. You should do this. This is the path. This is the path. This is the path. And that night, staring into my wine, I was like, this is not the path I want. And I said, when I have the opportunity to do something memorable, I'm going to seize that opportunity, and I'm going to arrange my life and start saying no to some things because I want to be able to say yes to the things that matter the most. And to this day, I am still the chair of this political organization, but you know what? If I need to miss a meeting to do something, I will miss a meeting to do something. And old me would not have gone to the Goo Goo Dolls concert last week. Old me would have been like, I've got too much going on. I should be preparing for this event that we're doing tomorrow. But I was like, you know what? No. The Goo Goo Dolls is another one of those first CDs I bought with my own money. And they, who knows? But I think that's part of that is saying, what things am I taking up in my life that I feel like I'm supposed to do, the supposed tos, the shoulds? How am I over committing to those things, and how is that destroying my ability to relax a little, to enjoy good experiences,
100%.
and Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny when you say that you're, part of a high demand religious stuff, and you say this is the path, this is the path. Makes me think of the Mandalorian. Were you a Mandalorian? This is the way. Anybody watch the Mandalorian? This is the way, Miranda.
Yes,
This is the
yes.
way.
Yeah, this is the way. This is the way.
So Paula, if an Afford Anything follower is in this one of these toxic relationships at work where they're demanding all your time, clearly people listening are like, I got to start to unravel that. How do you begin to get out of that? How do you begin to put this back together in a healthier way?
So there is a famous quote from the actor Steve Martin, who says, "Be so good they can't ignore you." And my twist on that, to answer your question, is be so good that they can't give you grief when you set your limits and set your boundaries and bow out, right? If you are if your output and your skill level at what you do is focused and on point and sharp, your company can't afford to lose you. In fact, they need you in high levels on big projects. And your value to them doesn't come from the hours that you put in. It comes from the output of those hours. So it's quality over quantity.
Yeah.
So I think that's the approach.
Well, and it's funny, Paula, that's the way that I look at it. That's the way OG looks at it. We were having a recent discussion on the show, though, with Doug about working from home versus working in the office. And people in our stacker community accused OG and I of having a small company attitude, because what we think works well in a small company, because I've worked a lot in a small company. But Len, you worked in a big company. I'm thinking about back to my time at American Express. Be so good that you won't get ostracized or won't get told that you have to do stuff. When I was with American Express, we had a bunch of middle managers who truly didn't see the end result. And even if I was really good, their whole goal was not to get ahead for the client or the customer like Paula would or like I would in a small business. It was just to keep their finger on Joe. And I'm pointing at the camera while I do that. But Len, you must have encountered some of those people working for a big company.
Yeah, there are those. That's why I said you've got to look out for number one, right? So you've got to document everything you do. You've got to document your value to the company. And when you do that and you're confident in what you're providing value to the company or your employer, it doesn't matter what this middle manager guy might say to you. So, you just got to you just do as much as you can do, as best you can in the time you're willing to do it. I mean, this is assuming you've made the decision that, hey, you're going to put you first. Your time is more important. Make sure you do what you're supposed to do and make sure you do it on the deadlines that you're given. If you're given a deadline, you really don't have a choice. I mean, you've got to meet the deadline. Your employer is paying you to do things. So, I mean, you can always push back and say, I need more time. But the key is to make sure that you're doing what's expected of you and document what you're doing. And then no matter what somebody else says or they try to keep their finger on you, it doesn't matter. You can actually ignore that middle manager as long as you're getting done what you need to get done.
Boy, that still feels like it carries some risk in a big company.
It really doesn't, Joe. If you got to when I say document, I mean document it. I mean, you write down, you show how you provided results. And believe me, nobody's going to argue with you. I've always said the most important person to impress in a company, it's not your boss, it's your boss's boss. They're the ones, if you're doing the work, they're going to find out. If you're providing value to the company, they're going to know. And it doesn't matter if another manager's trying to keep his finger on you.
Last on this list is not comparing yourself to others. Paula, this is so difficult. So difficult. I find I do this far too often. And when I don't do it, I'm with this piece. I feel so wealthy when I don't compare myself to other people. And yet I continually put myself back in that spot. How do you start getting around that?
I think one of the ways to get around that is to compare yourself to a previous version of yourself and just mark all of the milestones, the progress, how far you've come. And it's not going to be a straight trajectory, right? There's going to be some, one step forward, two steps back. But comparing yourself of the self of today to the self of 5 years ago, to the self of 10 years ago, to the self of 15 years ago. I think that, personal best is how you avoid comparing yourself to others.
Yeah, Miranda, how do you do it?
Kind of the same way. But also, I think part of it, too, is just I've managed to get in a situation where I just enjoy my life. And so I don't want to live somebody else's life. I like mine. I still sometimes look at some things.
That's interesting,
and say,
Miranda. Hold on a second. So yours is that, Paula, you're kind of looking in the rearview mirror saying, look at the progress I've made and I need to celebrate that. Miranda, it's like you're looking out front going, I don't want to follow that person's path. Like you're looking at the goals. Like I feel like you and Paula are on the same continuum.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. But yeah, basically, yeah, I'm looking at things and going like, well, what do I want to do? And people are constantly, so I get this a lot. I like to use this as an example, and we have the rent versus buy, big debate here in the personal finance world.
Oh boy.
And I know you're all real estate people. I know you all buy, which is fine. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but people are constantly asking me, well, why haven't you bought a house? Why don't you buy a house? Well, one, I have owned a house before. I've done the thing. I did not enjoy the thing. And I like living in my little apartment with my little balcony, with the little plants that I can water, and being able to not have to worry about what is going on while I'm traveling. I don't have to worry about maintenance. I don't have to worry about repairs. I don't have to worry about any of that. And my rent's on automatic, and I just don't have to worry about any of that when I'm gone. And so I think for me, it's less about saying like comparing to other people, but saying like, okay, I like my life and it works for me, and whatever you're doing with your life, if it's working for you, that's great. And there's no reason to have comparison because one is not better than the other.
You're after different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Len, how about for you? How do you avoid comparing yourself with other people?
Well, I guess I don't. It's almost tautological. I do that by not comparing myself to others. I just don't do it. I never have. I've never been impressed. I guess it helps if you're not impressed by displays of wealth or supposed displays of wealth. And I've been one of those people. It's never. I don't give a crap what kind of car you're driving. I don't give a crap what kind of house you live in. It doesn't influence me in the slightest. And I make I don't judge people based on that. I don't say, oh, well, you're obviously rich or you're obviously poor. There was a survey that on Wallet Hub I just saw the other day, and it was on the news. Apple's got the new smartphone coming out, the 15, I think it is. And in the survey, 16% of the respondents said that they felt if you didn't have the latest iPhone that you were in some sort of financial distress, which to me is just,
oh my goodness,
it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling.
I see somebody with a flip phone, I'm like, you're a badass.
Well, on the flip side of that, 33% of people said that if they saw you with the latest phone, they thought you were being wasteful with your money. But 16%, there was 16%, which what is that? 1 in 7 or something like that. I don't know. 1 in 7, 1 in 6 people think that you're in financial distress if you don't have the latest smartphone. So it's just, I don't make those kind of judgments one way or the other. So it's real easy not to be influenced by. Yeah,
I got a statistic I just saw, which was like 28% of people under 30 post stuff to Instagram to make themselves look richer than they really are. Like 28%. That's a big fat number, Len. Same thing. We will link to this on our show notes page at stackingbenjamins.com. I love talking about the feeling of wealth because really, who cares how much money you have if you don't get the opportunity to live a wealthy life. And I think these are 3 great ways to get there. Let's find out what's going on where all of you work. Let's start off with Mr. Penzo. We'll have our guest of honor go last. What's going on at lenpenzo.com? I can't even say it. It's so exciting. Yes, lenpenzo.com.
I go over my journey to my financial freedom journey, my journey to financial freedom. This is a post from probably, 10 years ago, but I thought I'd rerun it and just kind of goes over, what I did to feel financially free. And believe me, the answer wasn't, be rich. So, maybe it's apropos for our discussion today.
Climbing Financial Freedom Mountain. That's awesome. Paula, what's happening to Afford Anything?
On the Afford Anything podcast, we've got Seth Stevens-Davidowitz. He is the author of a book called Don't Trust Your Gut. It's all about using data to make big decisions. So we feature an interview with him on the show, and we recorded the interview live, face-to-face, in the same room at our new video studio. So go to YouTube, youtube.com/affordanything, and watch the interview.
Is that fun? You like that, being in the same room?
It is. Yeah, there's a certain energy that you get when it's a live interview. When you can see the person, you see the little micro expression, the shift in the chair.
Yeah. He's like throwing stuff at you because he doesn't like the question.
Yeah, exactly. Pie in the face.
So do you have a name for your studio, Paula? What's the name of your studio?
No, doesn't have a name. Doesn't have a name
yet. You need
a
clever name. Like when you see a movie and there's like the first 2 minutes of the movie are just the names of the studios. You need one of those fancy studio names, right? You know what I'm talking about? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's in the Cumulus offices, so Cumulus or.
I thought you meant like a pet's name, Len. Like it's Lucy. My studio's name is Lucy.
Yeah,
but you're talking about like something like Paula Pant Studios downtown, whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like Roadshow Studios or whatever. Like stuff like that.
Bad Robot.
You need a name.
Bad Robot.
Yeah, Bad Robot.
Right. Like Bad Robot.
You call it the pantsuit.
You know what?
Call it the pantsuit.
Paula, you need a contest. You need a contest to have your listeners and readers name your studio for you.
Name Paula's studio. Let's put that in the Stacking Benjamins basement. Let's do that. Somebody start a poll. What should Paula's studio be called? We're gonna help. We'll do the important work here, Paula. Good idea.
Oh, thank you.
Great idea, Len. Miranda, thank you so much for hanging out with us again.
Yeah. So over on the Money Talks News podcast, we have how to raise your credit score without getting ripped off. And so we take a look at these credit repair companies, and we have Michelle Lambright Black.
Oh, she's awesome.
Who she actually owned a credit repair company at one point. She actually is a expert witness in court cases. And so she's on there telling us all about when you can do it yourself versus when you really do need credit repair and the red flags that come from these credit repair companies. So check that out at the Money Talks News and with our Money Talks News podcast.
It's so fun. You guys have so much fun. It is just
we have a good time.
You do have a great time. We'll link to Money Talks News. We'll also link to MirandaMarquit.com where you can see all Miranda's writing. And sounds like you're getting ready to talk even more about people that want to go on this journey of let's have more life wealth.
Yep.
That's it. MirandaMarquit.com. All right.
Hey, Joe, we're wrapping up. You want to head out to the back porch and have a cocktail?
Absolutely.
Let's just move this whole party out there, sit in those sweet fold-out chairs that we've got.
Time for this last segment of the show. We call it the back porch. Guys, it's your first time on the back porch.
Hey, so let me, can I start? So Paula brought up the actor, Steve Martin, and a quote, what was that quote, Paula?
Be so good they can't ignore you.
Yes. He's a comedian too. He's a really funny guy. But I have another quote of his that I've always liked.
What's that?
Let's see here. Let me see if I can think about this. It was, I think it was something that says, "I just gave my cat a bath. Now, how do I get all this fur off of my tongue?" Something like that. That was a famous quote of his.
Amazing.
Well, that reminds me of
quality stuff.
That totally reminds me of jokes that the Emo Phillips, the comedian, tells. Neighbor Doug and I went to see Emo Phillips once in Lansing. I won't tell the really bad one, but what I will say is that he's got a joke, Len, much like that, where he's like, I'm driving down the road and I'm swerving all over the place because I'm trying to change the radio while I'm driving. And just as I get the old one out, this cop pulls me over. You're like, oh man, it's so bad.
So wait, so this is my first time on the back porch.
Welcome to the back porch, Paula. Isn't it nice out here?
Why, thank
this
you.
is new and fun. This is new and
So
fun.
nice.
It's a fantastic porch. Is it a gazebo porch? Is it an open porch?
It's like
what kind of tile does it have?
It's like the open Midwest, like wraparound porch. I mean, you're sitting on the porch. Can't you see it?
It's like you're on the swing. There's a porch swing. You're sitting right on it.
Are there mosquitoes? Because I don't want to be on the back porch if there's mosquitoes.
No
mosquitoes. Good.
I feel like somebody needs to bring me a bourbon.
What'd you say,
what did
Miranda?
I say?
So I feel like someone needs to bring me a bourbon.
I don't know. I want those mimosas you were talking about earlier. Yeah.
Right. Miranda, earlier when you were talking about creating great memories, I was like, not if you have too many mimosas.
I'm erasing memories.
Yeah.
Then
you don't remember a thing.
How much is a mimosa in New York, Paula? In New York City?
I have no idea. Probably a lot.
Bajillion.
I think bottomless mimosas, which are popular here for Sunday brunch, is maybe like 25-ish or so, maybe 30, somewhere in there.
Bottomless mimosa. Doesn't she dance at that bar up on 81st Street?
Wasn't it? Isn't it true that Roman Abramovich had a choice? He could buy 5 mimosas or get that yacht.
Right.
One or the other. We had Miranda. We had bottomless mimosas at my favorite restaurant in Texarkana called Verona, and it was funny. My friend Bobby and I went a few times with our families, and they stopped doing it. And I totally blame the two of us because there's no way they won that battle. Like I think we single-handedly ended bottomless mimosas at Verona's.
How much were those? How much did that cost?
I don't remember. I mean, it was pitchers. They would bring an entire pitcher and you'd serve yourself. Like that's how bad it was.
But somehow Joe's memory of that event is foggy.
I have no recollection, Your Honor. Right. Hey, one more cool thing before we say goodbye, which is I had a friend, we were talking about travel. And I've always wondered, like, why do some people go on cruises to travel or go to Disney? Like when I tell people I like to go to Disney, they're like, why do you like to go to some place that's completely man-made and fake, or be on a boat where you can do all the same stuff you would do on land, but more expensively? Why would you do that? And then other people go, why would you go to Greece or Turkey or, Ecuador or wherever the heck it is? And this woman who's been a friend of mine for a while, she wrote the best thing on social media. She said, people travel for 2 different reasons. She calls some of them explorers and the other ones escapists. Explorers, when they take a vacation, their goal is to see more of the world. And those people, when they get back, feel very comfortable with the fact that they were away from work, which recharged them, but they were still kind of exhausted, And then other people who like to go to the beach, like to go on a cruise, those people are escapists. They go because they just want to, I want to read a book on a beach somewhere, or look at a mountain or whatever it might be. And I realized those are 2 totally like when I get a little judgy about somebody else's travel, I totally am playing that game where I don't even they're traveling for a completely different reason than I do. Do you guys find yourself
insightful?
Well, do you find yourself to be more of an explorer, more of an escapist? Paul, I think you're probably an explorer.
Definitely an explorer.
Yeah,
100%.
Len is more of an escapist. Yep. Likes to go hang out and chill. Miranda's an explorer.
I definitely put myself kind of on that explorer side. Let's look at it as a continuum.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, Miranda. That's me. I thought that I'm kind of on both. Like I like to explore for a few days and then give me a couple days on a beach.
So I'm a big fan of, so for me, travel is about, I want to see all the places, do all the things and eat all the food. So, I mean, I want to make sure I'm eating the food. There has to be good food. And then I
want to have all the Montezumas.
Yes. But also I kind of see it as kind of both, because I actually do like cruises, but I like the Viking River cruises. I'm a big fan of Viking. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Viking.
You like being the youngest person on the ship.
Well, that helps. But other than my son, but my son is basically a 60-year-old man, so I'm still the youngest person on the ship. But I like cruises. I kind of look at cruises as like a tasting menu, right? Yeah. Because especially if you're on a Viking River cruise, because you get a little bit of a cultural presentation and you try different ports. And I make a list of like places that I really liked and want to go back to explore. And so I think, yeah.
Doug, you more of an explorer?
Yeah, I'd have to say that when I'm going places, it's usually pretty active.
But you've got very specific places you'll explore and other places you won't. Like national park, you're out. State park, you're in.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even say that about all national parks, but certainly many of the more famous ones, I'm out just because they're too busy. But for instance, I'm heading to Miranda's part of the world later this winter because, well, a little bit north of you, Miranda, but I'm headed up to the Northern Panhandle. I'm going to head up to Kellogg and up to Ponderay to go skiing.
Nice.
So, but to highlight explorer versus escapist, I deliberately did not look for a ski resort. Can't stand the thought of a resort where everything is sort of perfectly put together. I want to go to a smaller, out of the way mountain and go skiing. Miranda, we're headed to Schweitzer, and I'll go to probably Silver Mountain in Kellogg. I avoided like crazy the Vales and the Park Cities. I just want nothing to do with that, which would be the Disney World version of.
I thought you heard the magic words Miranda said, which were bottomless mimosas. That's why you were headed that way.
I mean, if you want to come through, we do have a little place called Kelly Canyon that you can ski. And then there's a nice little hot springs next to it.
All right.
That's Doug's way of going, great, not doing it. Did you hear that?
Not doing it.
That sounds fantastic, Miranda.
You said you wanted a small, out of the way, not put together place, and I'm giving you Kelly Canyon because that is a small, out of the way, not put together place, my guy.
Hey, do they really call the thing on Idaho there, Miranda? Do they call it the panhandle, or do they call it the chimney? I mean, it doesn't even look like a panhandle.
We actually call it Northern Idaho.
Oh, that's creative.
That's what we call it.
Your whole market.
Wow.
We just call it Northern Idaho.
Amazing.
Now, there are some people who, some people call it the barrel. Now, this is because I would like you to think about Idaho. Now, tip Idaho on its side, and it looks like a firearm. So some people call it the barrel because it's the tip it on the side.
Yes.
It's like the barrel of the... Yeah, tip Idaho on its side. It's
taking a shot at Montana.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
I don't know that I want to go into that anymore, but what I would like to do is see what people see the basement. Are you more escapist or explorers? I'd love to do that poll as well. Let's do that one on Spotify as well. All right, Miranda, Len, Paula, Doug, thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks to all of you for hanging out. Doug, you've got the end of this. What should we have learned today?
Well, Joe, first, take some advice from Miranda Marquit and start with what you have to work toward earning what you're worth. Second, stop comparing yourself to others. Instead, take some advice from Paula and compare yourself to your former self. As long as you're making progress, you'll never stop growing richer. But the big lesson? Pro tip, there's no law against naming a dinghy the yacht, so you can tell people you're spending the weekend on the yacht without spending a bazillion bucks. Thanks to Miranda for joining us today. Learn more about Miranda at her website, mirandamarquit.com. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Thanks to Len Penzo for joining us today. You can find Len at lenpenzo.com/riverkiller. Thanks also to Paula Pant for hanging out with us today. You'll find her fabulous podcast, Afford Anything, wherever you listen to finer podcasts. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2023, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Our producer is Karen Repine. This show was written by Lisa Curry, who's also the host of the Long Story Long podcast, with help from me, Joe, and Doc G from the Earn and Invest podcast. Kevin Bailey helps us take a deeper dive into all the topics covered on each episode in our newsletter called The 201. You'll find the 411 on all things money at The 201. Just visit stackingbenjamins.com/201. Wonder how beautiful we all are? Of course you'll never know if you don't check out our YouTube version of this show, engineered by Tina Eichenberg. Then you'll see once and for all that I'm the best thing that ever happened to this show. Once we bottle up all this goodness, we ship it to our engineer, the amazing Steve Stewart. Steve helps the rest of our team sound nearly as good as I do right now. Want to chat with friends about the show later? Of course you do. Mom's friend Gertrude and Kate Youngkin are our social media coordinators, and Gertrude is the room mother in our Facebook group called The Basement. So say hello when you see us posting online. To join all the basement fun with other stackers, type stackingbenjamins.com/basement. Not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.